Hi guys and welcome back to Kerbal space program. In this episode we're going to take some missions and look at completing one of them, which is going to require us to get into orbit above the planet. If you're enjoying the series, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. For now, however, let's get on with the episode. So, conduct a focus temperature survey. We need to test any required capabilities with a focus. Go to designated test site and gather some temperature measurements. I don't quite know how to get to these different areas yet. I'm not sure how that's going to work. Escape the atmosphere we could potentially do. Okay, we could look at doing that. Let's take that. And also orbit Kerbal. We could try and get into orbit. We could do that. Let's try and get into orbit. Let's take it because that could be pretty cool. Let's see what the things are. Escape the atmosphere, so breach atmosphere by flying a vessel. We could have done that one actually in the last one. 70,000 meters isn't that much. So that's the atmosphere. Okay. Orbit Kerbal. Fly a vessel up and out of the atmosphere and accelerate parallel with the surface until you're in a stable orbit to achieve this goal. So all we need to do that is get into an orbit, which I kind of know how to do. It's just whether we've got the technology to be able to do that yet. Right, okay, let's try it. Why not? Why not, hey? So, what we can do is get rid of this. No, actually, we don't want to get rid of it. But we're going to need a lot more, aren't we? Yeah, we are. So, how are we going to do this? We kind of want that to stay the same because that's cool. We did get a heat shield. Did we get a heat shield? Yes. Heat shield. What's the difference between these two? I'm not going crazy. That's really small. Are they supposed to be that small? I guess that's what we want, really, underneath there, because we'll head back in like that. How am I going to get my science to survive? I don't know. But I suppose if we can get into orbit, there is this thing where you can do an EVA, and you can... Let me check that out, because it's interesting. I think I've put that on the wrong side of the decoupler, haven't I? Do I want the decoupler off? Yeah, I want the heat shield off. That goes on the bottom of there, and then the decoupler goes on top of it. But yeah, for now, there is something you can unlock, apparently, where... Yep, save and continue. Where you can just do EVAs in space all of a sudden, like, it's in the astronaut complex. Is it? I think we killed one of our astronauts. Yeah. Yeah, Jebediah Kerman, he died, unfortunately. So we need to be more careful with that. We've got these engineers and scientists and stuff like that. We should probably hire a scientist, because while we're doing science missions, we're going to want a scientist, definitely. Did I just spend like most of my money on that? I didn't even think about it. But yeah, we'll work that out. So, there's something you can unlock. I know there is. I need to find it. Leave. Where do you do it? Administration building. I didn't even know all this stuff was part of the game here, but you've got all these different like campaigns and stuff you can do. I really need to find out how to do these EVAs. Is it in here? It's one. I know it costs money rather than... I'm going to have to quickly look at this. Okay, so I've just worked out how to do that. You have to upgrade the astronaut complex, which is 75,000, which is fine, and that's going to let us perform EVAs, and there we go. So that's done. Right, back to our vehicle assembly. We want to get into an orbit. Our vehicle's gone, never mind. Well, actually, I kind of want it back. Did it save it? This kind of looks like it. Yeah, that's it. So, it's got all our stuff on it still. Right, we need more fuel tanks than that. How much does the ship weigh in at the moment? Let's chuck a couple more fuel tanks on and then have a look at how much it weighs. Right, so we've got that. We've got a decent amount of leeway with this. We could just chuck a couple more fuel tanks on, and that will probably get us into an orbit. Do we want to phase though? That's what I'm thinking. Do we want to chuck a couple of solid fuel rockets on the side just to get us off the ground? Is that going to be a good idea? So the ship currently only weighs 8, so we could We could chuck a couple of, say, of these solid fuel boosters on the side of the ship that disappear once it hits a certain altitude, and we could use radial decouplers to do that. So we could, you know, stick those on, say, there like that, and then we could put a couple of these solid fuel booster engines on the outside like that. Those are intersecting my fins there, so that's not going to help, but I should be able to put those back on like that. Yeah, so we could have it so it goes up like that. Those things obviously drop off, and then our booster kicks in, so that's a possibility. Right, let's just make this slightly more aerodynamic, because, you know, how much does the ship weigh now? 15. So we get into pretty much our maximum what we want. So right, let's get to the decoupling working. So that's going to go decouple and activate our main engine. That's what we want. And then eventually decouple and parachute. So yeah, that's going to be fine. Let's try it out. We're going to need to put our astronaut in, don't we? So crew. We'll put our scientist in, because I do want to do some science experiments, and all we're going to do is kind of a regular little path. Right, thinking about it, is this actually going to keep this thing stable? The craft has no professional SDS modules, no pilots aboard. Okay, that's a little bit of a problem. I need to go back to the launch pad. Not the launch pad, I need to go back to the... I can't have it with no stability controls, because I'm not good enough, basically. Right, next, done. Okay, let's... It's a shame, because the scientist would actually give us a lot more science per the experiments we're doing. However, I'm not quite ready to have no one, and we don't have any two-man pods or anything like that, which eventually we should be able to get hold of. For now, though, we're going to need to just work with what we've got. Okay, right, let's try this out. We're going to have pilot assist on, and we're going to go, and we're going to bank off over there, and hopefully get ourselves into an orbit. Okay, so we're going to launch now. We are going to work our way over to a nice angle. At least that's kind of the plan. Okay, now we've got our liquid fuel on the go. Right, so right, we'll try and get a decent angle going, kind of like that, I guess. And let's speed this up to 4 times, and hopefully that will take us into an orbit. I don't know if it's going to work, because I only did this once in like the training missions, so I'm not 100% what's the word? I'm not 100% happy that this is going to work. So that's just exiting the atmosphere there. Hopefully there's not too much going on with it. We can ease off on the throttle a little bit, I guess, just to kill some speed off. Okay, looks like the heat's kind of stabilising a little bit. Let's have a look at the map and see how we're doing. Yeah, we are developing an orbit. We are. Just realised that I completely burned out my fuel, and I would have needed some to actually get like a solid orbit going. So that's kind of a bit rubbish, because we could have used this to develop an orbit. I might just have to revert the flight, because there's no way I can actually get into an orbit now with this. Let's revert flight to launch. We'll kill the thrusters earlier. Yeah, that'll be fine. Right, so let's get auto controls on. Okay, so we've got to a decent height. I'm going to kill the engine now, because what we're going to do is this is showing kind of our trajectory. Now the way to widen this orbit, see at the moment, like if we continue our trajectory, we'll just go up and then gravity will pull us back down, which is fine. But the way to actually widen our orbit is to hit the apoapis, whatever it's called, apoapsis, I don't know, whatever, and then we can fire our engines like that way, and it will widen the orbit and should put us into an orbit around the planet. So that's what we're going to look at doing. Right, so back off the map. In fact, back to the map. We'll speed it up to, say, 10 times just to get us there. And when we start arriving, okay, we're almost there now, so let's slow it right down. We want to get ourselves facing, which we should be able to control with this. There we go, it's down there we want to be facing. That should take us into prograde of our orbit. So if we go there, like that, we should then be able to fire our thrusters on full, which I'll do, and that should widen our orbit. So that's what's happening, and our orbit is widening. So it's just whether we've got enough left in the tank to actually make that orbit spread the entire planet. I might have cut it a bit fine, but that looks like it's... Did it do it? That's just done the job. However, it's going to pull us in really, really close on the other side. But that should be considered a stable orbit. So, let's go back off the map. We can disconnect our units there like that. Okay. Now, the only thing I didn't think about was how are we going to re-enter the atmosphere, because we're in orbit now. Now, if I go to the map, if we just follow this path around, it's going to keep bringing us back on a circle. We've got no way of actually heading back in, so we might have screwed up a little bit here, and I should have probably kept an engine to boost us back into the atmosphere. So I'm going to just speed things up significantly to see what happens. So I'm not sure if over time our orbit will degrade, or if we'll just keep going at this speed kind of like forever. I think that I'm going to have to revert the flight, unfortunately. I don't think there's much more I can do, because, you know, well, what can I do? I'm going to call that an end to the episode, and in the next one we'll look at building some kind of craft that can get us into orbit and then safely return us with all our science experiments. So look forward to that in the next one. If you're enjoying this series, please do hit that like button and subscribe to my channel so I can keep making them. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.